Hello and welcome to the Blazor Power Hour. I'm your host, Ed Charbonneau, and with me today is a special guest, Jimmy Engstrom. How are you doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing good. What an intro.
That is my absolute favorite intro of all the streaming that I do, because there's so many great people like yourself in there. And you're part of the intro, just a little Easter egg for folks that haven't seen the talk. What's going on in the background there?
So that is a small demo of my ZX Spectrum emulator. I think I do have one laying around somewhere. No, I don't.
Just have these laying around?
Oh, here it is.
That's a thing?
Of course. Here it is. So this is a computer from the 80s, early 80s, and this was my first computer. So when I became a developer, I realized that I wanted to try to see if I could do an emulator for this old machine. And, well, spoilers, I could.
And you did
so this has become
with Blazor as well, right?
Yeah, so that has become kind of my hello world. So I'm trying all new technologies with this emulator, and Blazor is no exception.
Awesome. Love it. Now, Jimmy, you've been spending a lot of time with Blazor. I brought you on the show because you got so many things going on with your wonderful book. You've got some plugins that you're writing for Visual Studio. It's maybe a surprise thing that you're working on also in your spare time. You also work with Blazor during your daytime job as well.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into some of the other fun stuff that you're into later on in the show, like streaming and podcasting and workshops, or conferences and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about your book first off, though.
Yeah, sure.
So when did your book come out? It's been out for just a little while now.
Oh, I get these kinds of questions. So I should have learned the date by now, shouldn't I? I do have a page up here. Let's see if I could.
They take forever to write, don't they?
Yeah, the publication date was March 16, I believe. It actually came out a little bit later than that, but around March. And that was the second edition. So I can show you. Actually, I have both editions here. Look at this. So this is it's green. So that's why it's now gray, because I have a green screen. But this is the first edition. And then we have the second edition.
Nice.
And what is most important with these books are, of course, the raccoons on the cover, because that's important, right?
Now, the raccoon thing, was this something that you started before the book, or was the book the inspiration for loving raccoons? Or
I believe it was actually, now I actually see that my wife is in the chat, so I probably shouldn't say this, but it started with Rocket Raccoon, really.
Ah, okay, Guardians of the Galaxy then.
Yeah.
One of my favorite characters. Did you see the latest movie?
I have.
Yeah, that was probably one of your favorites then, because it was...
Yeah, but it was also heartbreaking.
It was a sad movie. I couldn't imagine taking small children to see, but it was a great movie. But it was very raccoon focused. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
So about how long did it take you to write your book, Jimmy? I know I did some writing recently, and those books feel like they take forever.
Yeah, so the short version is it took longer. It always takes longer. So the first version, I think was a year in the making, and that was for .NET 5. So for the second edition, we went for .NET 7. And even though there's a lot of things changed between .NET 6 and .NET 7 and from 5, there wasn't a lot of things that I had to rewrite completely. Basically, what we did was we learned some stuff from the first edition, things that was perhaps a little bit more complicated, and more complicated than it has to be. And also, there was some workarounds happening in the first edition trying to figure out some, I believe JavaScript, for example, isolated JavaScript was not a thing in .NET 5. I've written some things to kind of solve that problem already in .NET 5. So there was a lot of things that just became better.
Yeah, luckily there's not a lot of changes after .NET 7, but then .NET 8 comes along.
Yeah.
Now we got changes again. At least they're not breaking changes, but we've got some new features coming. Have you been keeping up with some of those?
I have, kinda, I would say. I've been keeping up. I haven't really dove in it and tried it out, all of the features. But basically, what it means is that the third edition, which we're actually talking about right now, is going to need a little bit of a rewrite.
Yeah, so in .NET 8, we've got one new feature that shipped already. If you're doing previews, you can tap into it, and that's the sections feature. And if you've done any type of render section in MVC, it's very, very similar. They took that idea and kind of just ran with it in a little bit more of a Blazor style. And I think the one that's going to be tough for us content creators is going to be the the unofficial name is the Blazor United Initiative.
Yeah.
And this is kind of doing away with Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly and just mixing them together and calling it Blazor once and for all. Yeah. So as a book author myself, like it, we've written things like, how do you choose between Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly? And now it's going to be a different set of choices.
Yeah. So apparently, if I understand everything correctly, the Microsoft message around this is going to be basically do whatever you want, start with whatever you want, and then you can pick and choose WebAssembly, Blazor Server, or server rendered, whatever you like. And you can pick and choose every single component, or you can do it in the base of the project. So basically all the components. Yeah. So it's a rewrite. It is.
It's a bit of a rewrite, but it's a good rewrite because I think it's going to solve a lot of problems. I think that's I still get that question, and Blazor's been out what, 5 years, 6 years, 5-ish.
Yeah, 5-ish.
Every time somebody new steps into Blazor, that's the question I get: is what do I choose, Blazor Server or Blazor WebAssembly? Then you have to go down the decision tree with like, what is your target audience? What type of infrastructure do you want to have? What do you want to pay for server resources? All of that stuff. So it'll be a welcome change when we can adjust that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where can we get a copy of your book these days, Jimmy?
So Amazon.com actually has a very good discount right now. I think it's like 20% off or something like that.
Nice.
So that's a good place. But I've also heard that you have a bunch of books to give away.
That's right. Been working with you on some promotions, and I'm going to be at Visual Studio Live along with my good friend Sam Basu. So if you're out in the Seattle, Redmond area, maybe you have tickets for Visual Studio Live, Sam and I are going to be at a little thing called the Birds of a Feather Lunch. And I love these when you're at a conference. What the Birds of a Feather Lunch is you walk around at lunch, and some conferences don't do this. You've just got tables of random strangers that you don't know. That's always a good time to make some new friends. But you might want to find people that have like-minded interests. So what a Birds of a Feather Lunch does is you have a little placard at your table that says something on it like raccoons. And all the people that like raccoons go to that table. So
all the people is going to be at that table. Got it. Right.
Yeah. So what we did is we picked Blazor for our table. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some of your books to that table, Jimmy. And as people come to sit with us, they're going to get a copy of your book.
Awesome.
So if you're going to be at Visual Studio Live, watch for that birds of a feather lunch and look for the Blazor table with Sam Basu and I sitting there. We might have a little present for you. It's going to be like one of those first come, first serve type things till we run out, but still, it's nice to give away copies of your book.
And thank you so much for the support. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate that. So do you know where the birds of a feather, what does that expression come from? Do you know that?
It's like birds of a feather flock together. I don't know. It's older than time, as far as I know.
Got it.
Yeah, I've heard it since I was a little kid, so it's much older than I am. That's all I know about it. I should probably look up the history on that one just to become familiar with it, but I don't know. It's just not a saying in Sweden.
I don't know if we actually do have something similar, but I was a little bit curious about the usage when it comes to these lunches, and because you told me about this lunch concept, and I was like, I have no idea, never heard of it.
Something Visual Studio Live's done for quite some time, and I don't know if it's unique to them, but it's one of the few conferences I've seen that does it consistently. But it's a good idea, and it's generally something that sponsors opt into as well. So there may be some preset birds of a feather tables, but usually the sponsors pick the topics for those things. So it's a chance for sponsors to get involved as well, which is always nice.
I really like the
Pay
concept.
the bills for those conferences, so it's nice to be able to get some value out of the investment there.
Yeah, I like the concept.
For those of you that haven't met Jimmy before, Jimmy is from Sweden, and I like to call him, because he's such a Blazor expert, Swede Sanderson, because Steve Sanderson made Blazor, and then we've got Swede Sanderson, the Swedish version of Steve Sanderson.
Thank you, I guess.
I would take it as a compliment. If anybody were to compare me to Steve Sanderson, I would have to take that as a compliment.
That is true. That is true.
He is a very brilliant gentleman. I've had the honor of meeting a few times, and it's always amazing to watch the guy work. It's like if I had an extra brain, maybe I could keep up. Speaking of extra brains and keeping up with tech, Jimmy, do you have something that you're working on that helps us feel like we have an extra brain when we're in Visual Studio writing Blazor code?
I hope so. So let me share my screen, and I can show you some of the things that.
Get my big mug off here so you can play around or to showcase your plugin. I've played around with it a little bit. It's super cool, but I feel like I'm not quite knowledgeable of all the features, so it's great to have you on so you can show me around a little bit and get me up to speed.
Yeah, let's see what we got. So basically, as we talked about, I'm doing Blazor development full time. That's the only thing I do. So basically, full day of work Blazor, and then when I come home, we do some streaming and stuff like that, and do some Blazor stuff here at the evenings and weekends as well. So there are a couple of things that I wouldn't say that they're hard to do, but sometimes it's a little bit more work than I would like it to be. So let's talk about, let's do this with the index file here, for example. So let's say that I want to add a isolated CSS to this file. Now, there are a couple of different ways of doing that. I can right-click, and I can add, now I don't even see it. Oh, because I need to be at the Pages folder, add, new file, and figure out what, type the name index.razor.css and all of that. Now, I could do Shift F2, at least I think I can. There we go. And I can type the file name here. And again, it's index.razor.css, and you probably will forget some of that at some point when you're typing. Ask me how I know. So if you want to add a isolated CSS with my plugin, I can just right-click here and simply create isolated CSS. Boom, we got an isolated CSS file. Same thing goes for isolated JavaScript. Boom, we got one of those. And if we, for some reason, like code behind, we can do that as well, and we will get a code behind file ready to go.
Was that an opinion that I started to hear there? For some reason, you like a code behind?
I was trying not to be opinionated, but I guess that kind of. I write all my code in the Razor file because switching back and forth is not as nice experience. But perhaps this next feature will change my mind, because I can press Ctrl-Alt-N and I can simply go through all of these different files that I have inside of the index.razor file. So if I press once, I'm going to get the razor.cs, again, the CSS file, and then again, the JavaScript file. So it's kind of easy to
traversing through that components related CSS, JavaScript, or code behind. Exactly. Nice.
So that's hopefully an easier way. So the really cool thing here is that the CSS and the JavaScript file, those are things that I needed. And then there was a community member, now I'm totally forgetting his name, even though I know him. He suggested the feature of being able to go through these files. So he actually wanted me to do it as a separate plugin, but well, we already have this one. So going through the different associated files. And then there was another community member saying that, hey, you know what? I like to use code behind. Can you make a way for me to create a code behind file? So those two features came from the community, which I'm super stoked about. I'm just gonna, before I continue, I'm just gonna show you the plugin I'm talking about here. So the name of the plugin is Blossom Extension. It's available on Visual Studio Marketplace. You can see all of the features here as well. But let's talk more about them. And if you have any suggestions, please post them in the Q&A, or perhaps even just ping me. I have open DMs on most of my social media. And please, if you like it, please submit a rating or a review. That would be awesome. So let's see, what else do we have? Well, this plugin started with another feature that I was not sure about whether or not I should release it or not, because I thought that this is just a problem or a thing that I have, not a lot of other people have that. And this is like the top feature that people are bringing up. So I love your plugin, and that feature is amazing. And that is if you go up here, extensions, Blossom, and we can show Blazor routes. So
nice.
This one is you too.
Yeah, because we used to keep these all in one file. Now they're scattered throughout components, which is really a nice feature, because when you get rid of a component, you don't have to go like edit route tables and all that weird stuff. Kind of, I like the way that it works, but then you don't have a way of seeing it all like you just displayed it here.
Yeah. So basically, it goes through all the files in the solution. It's basically a regular expression finding the page directive, and you can double click on there and go to the correct file.
I think I've written similar code to this before. Like, so are you using reflection here to like inspect?
Actually, this is basically just going through the Visual Studio tree and getting the it's a regular expression finding at page.
Oh,
So
okay.
in case you're actually writing all of that in C# code with a route attribute, this won't find it.
Okay.
I was thinking about doing it the reflection way, but I wasn't sure how I would be able to. I mean, I need to kind of get into that DLL basically to be able to reflect on that, since we're not inside of the code. We're in Visual Studio doing this. Maybe there's a better way, but this is the way it's written right now, at least. So what else? We got, if we go into our counter here, I've actually already put this in code behind, because why not? And this is a feature that I needed, because we've been kind of like doing it back and forth. We started with doing all the code in the Razor file, because when Blazor came out, that was the thing that everyone was doing. Microsoft did it. They mixed markup and code in the same file. But then we thought that, you know what, this feels wrong somehow. So we moved everything to code behind. And now we realize that, well, we kind of want it back in the Razor file again. So what we can do here is that we can right-click on the file and move code behind to Razor. So if you click that, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? This is a beta feature. I'm not entirely 100% sure that this works, but hopefully it does. Boom. And we got all the code behind inside of the Razor file.
It'll only delete some of your code.
So it's feeling like I'm missing some features. Let me take a look here. We talked about that. Oh, right. So one of the other things that we can do is we can take a snippet of code, and maybe we want to, usually we have way too large files, and we kind of want to break it down, getting into separate components. So I can right-click, select something, right-click, and simply say extract to component. Name the component. Let's call it counter things. There we go. And we're going to get a new component, counter things.razor. And if we go back to the counter components, we'll see that we have the new components in there. Now it won't handle like parameters and stuff like that. You need to do that yourself, but it kind of helps. You don't need to create a new file. You don't need to copy and paste the code. It helps a little bit at least.
That's a pretty big bulk of it, though, is just getting the stuff copied out and put in another file. So
yeah,
it's a nice head start.
There's also, like, let's say we have using Blazor extension demo.data, for example, here. Now I can select that, right click, and I can say move namespaces to _import. Boom, now it's gone.
See, that's super handy, because what happens to me all the time, Jimmy, is I start typing the name of a component, and I usually end up with the component, but explicitly like the namespace embedded with the component name. And then I have to add the using statement, and then I'll go to the next component and start doing it again, and then add another using statement. I'm like, oh, I forgot to put this in my imports. So now I've got a shortcut to do that. It's awesome.
Yeah. And what it's actually doing, since you can have import files in different levels of your project, this is like it's finding the closest one. Usually you probably only have one, but you can have multiple. So let's see, did I forget something here? I think this is actually all the things it does, for now at least.
For now. Is there a GitHub project associated with that?
It is. There are. Let me see. So It's available. Source code is open source. I'd be happy to take pull requests. I actually had one person that did a pull request, and it's kind of like there are a couple of things when you kind of feel like you accomplished something, like when you have an open source project and you get the first pull request. It's like, yes, it's open source. Everyone is contributing. I actually had an old application. This was many years ago, which I found someone. This was in Visual Basic, and I found that someone did the crack for that program, which was like mind-blowing to me. Someone thought that this application was awesome. They took the time to decompile it, or whatever you do with Visual Basic, and figuring out how to crack the application. That was pretty cool. Please don't do that.
Please don't do that. But if you want to contribute or submit a issue, a pull request, whatever it is, I pasted Jimmy's GitHub repo for this project in chat. So
awesome.
Make sure you go there. Also, hit the little like or favorite icon there so you can watch activity on it as well. Give you a heads up when new versions are coming out or anything's changed.
Yep.
Yeah, this is handy. Like I said, I installed it. I started using some of the more common features, but I didn't get to deep dive into it yet. So it's nice to have you come on and show us all of the capabilities of it. And if you haven't tried it out yet, make sure you guys download it and kick the tires on it. Like Jimmy just showed, there's a lot of features that'll save you a ton of time.
Yeah. And please write a review if you like it. Don't write a review if you don't like it. Is that not how things work?
That's how the internet works, but in the opposite way. Everybody writes negative reviews about everything.
Yeah.
So if something has no reviews, it's like no news is good news. Like no reviews is good news.
Yeah.
So if you're not working on a book or writing an extension for Blazor, what else are you working on? Because I heard you teasing something in some social media channels. That you might
I did.
No good.
So this is breaking news. I haven't told anyone about this, at least not on the stream like this. So a friend of mine, my coworker, he bought a Kickstarter many years ago, and I thought it was a really cool Kickstarter. So we looked into it, we tried it at work, and I kind of asked him, could I bring it home, please? Can I play around with it? And he's like, yeah, sure, do that. And I think we're like 3 years later. I'm like, you know what? I still have that thing that I borrowed from you. I'm so sorry. I have such a bad conscience. Should we bring it to you when we come over? And he's like, no. You can have it. It's yours. And I'm like, oh my God, this is way too much. But my bad conscience kind of like, well, if I now have that thing, do you think how I'm building up to it? Now, when I have that thing, that amazing thing that he gave me, I kind of need to do something with it. So I started a new library, which is a web serial library for Blazor. Now, there is a web serial library already out there, but I needed to, I wanted to be able to read and write, and that was just to write to the device.
Okay.
And I kind of wanted to explore that one because since this is serial, and we're going to come back to that, but since it's web serial, I kind of think that, you know what, I want to do that a little bit faster. So I'm just going to do this for WebAssembly. And I haven't worked a lot with WebAssembly only libraries, so I thought, hey, let's do that with all the JS interrupts or JS import and JS export. And not that one, Eric, not that one. So the device is one of these. So it's a Yuto, which is a robotic whiteboard. And I have a thing for whiteboards. I love whiteboards. But this is basically what it does is that it's like a CNC machine. So it has movements, pen up, pen down, and all of that stuff. So I'm back in the day when I first was introduced to it, we wrote a library that converted like SVG files to G code, which is what the CNC machine, or at least many of them, use. So basically, just like pen up, scroll, move X millimeters, I think it's actually measured in, and pen down, move around, do this, do that, and well, you see what is coming out here. So that is what I'm currently working on, and I just ordered new pens for this one because the old one is they have a new type of pen which is a little bit better because the one that I have right now is just dried out all the time, and I mean it's kind of warm here as well, so it's
kind of interesting. I
dries out.
never thought about like automating a whiteboard before, but it could be an interesting way to do like templating for, you know, maybe a certain type of meeting. We're going to have a, you know, a scrum or whatever, and it templates out, you know, a predefined list of things or some graphic that you can annotate on top of.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like this big, perhaps. Actually, I have it in the next room here, but it's around that big. So it's not huge, but it's a lot of fun.
very
So hopefully, when we get the new pens, I will be able to show all of that goodness.
So you're learning a bit about web serial then. Are you writing a full JavaScript interop for it?
That is the idea. It's probably not going to be a 100% thing, but as far as I understand the library and what you can do with web serial, it should be at least something that you can use to get you started.
Have you looked at David Pine's project at all?
Yes, I have, and I actually tried to use it, but apparently I was not clever enough to figure it out how it worked. I should definitely have pinged him, but I decided to look into more about the even though I mean his project is pretty amazing. Basic what it does is that it takes TypeScript's definitions, if I remember correctly, and converts it to Blazor interrupts, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it tries to use source generators along with the TypeScript definitions, like you said.
Yeah.
And it tries to auto-gen those interrupts for you. So he's had some pretty good success with it, but the more complex these things are, you know, the more nuances there are to it. So I was just curious if you gave it a shot or not. Sounds like you did. So
I did.
Yeah.
But it's probably not it's a me problem, definitely.
There's some things with
case.
with JavaScript interrupts too that there's some nuances to them. So when I wrote my Blazor size library, so it detects media query breakpoints, and you could probably use the tool that David Pine wrote to do that. The only caveat's going to be the fact that you could have many breakpoints in an app. You know, you could have several breakpoints on multiple components. Picture a data grid, for example, and maybe somehow each cell has a breakpoint of some sort. And a lot of them are going to have common ones, but what you don't want to do is raise an event for every single component that has a breakpoint, especially if they're the same breakpoint. So let's say the screen changes past 720 pixels. You don't want, 100 components all calling that event.
Yeah.
So what I do is I deduplicate events, so you minimize the number of WebSocket calls that get pinged and stuff like that. So the automation tools are great, but not for every scenario.
Yeah, I'm actually using that for, all the things I'm doing with Blazor is kind of getting the Blossom stamp, if you will. So it's kind of a combination of Blazor and Awesome, which is the company name that my wife and I are using. And it will make your projects blossom. I like my puns as well. So I actually do have a blossom.components here, which is more of a thing that you can try it out and see how you would make a grid components, which was interesting that you took that as an example. And this is using your Blazor size plugin or NuGet.
Yes.
So basically, what it does is if you lower the width of the viewport, it's going to remove columns in a specific order and put them beneath. So yeah.
Yeah. So we trade puns all the time, by the way. Like
Yeah.
This is dad joke territory you've all wandered into. I sent one. I don't think I've said this on any stream or anything yet, but my wife and I ordered shoes. I told Jimmy this one. We ordered shoes. I had some gift cards. So we went on and ordered these nice summer sandals and stuff, and got a really good deal on them. And my wife and I happened to pick the same pair of sandals for outside for the pool. So we're looking at them. She's like, I ordered the same exact shoes you did. Can you believe that? I said, hey, it's official. We're soulmates. What can I say?
And my reply was something like, how many once in a lifetime do you get?
These opportunities just seem to fall into my lap, and I can't help but take advantage of it. Man,
That's a really good one.
dad jokes for life. Soulmates.
I know, right?
Come on, folks. I'm here all week. Or at least the next 20 minutes. You got me for 21 minutes. So besides great puns, Jimmy, I heard that you're working on another conference.
Yes.
Is Call for Speakers still open there?
It's actually closed yesterday. So,
ouch! Sorry, speakers.
but this is a 2-day conference in Gothenburg, south of Sweden. So if you're in Sweden or nearby, you should definitely check it out.
Or have never been to Sweden and want to go check out Sweden, because Sweden is really a great visit.
Yeah, and Gothenburg is the second biggest city in Sweden, and it's a really nice city, to be honest. It's a nice one, and we actually did send out accepted speakers today, but we haven't. As we get the reply back that they accept the session, we're gonna put everything on the homepage as well.
So it's a .NET developer conference for .NET
Yes.
developers by .NET developers. So I'm assuming there's gonna be some Blazor content somewhere.
There is going to be some Blazor content. I actually do have a session. We're going to talk about what's new with .NET 8 and Blazor.
Awesome.
So by then, I need to figure all of that out.
Yeah. So sometimes when we submit sessions, like we have an idea, a gist of what that session is, but maybe not fully written it out yet. And I've got one that I submitted for DevUp, which is coming soon. And it's not a Blazor session necessarily. We'll have some Blazor in it, but it's a session about nulls. And what's fun is I haven't written the session yet. So
well, that's
see where I'm
kind
going
of
here?
like, yeah, but there is basically 2 types of speakers, right? You got one type that is writing everything in beforehand, and they have like 10 sessions, 9 of them that they will never do because you're always going to pick the first one, right? That could happen. And there's the second version of speakers that is going to submit something, and when they get accepted, you're going to write the session.
Yeah,
I think it makes sense.
So the session is not about lulls; it is about nulls or nullability. But not having written the actual content, like I feel like there's a lesson there. Like it's a session about null, but there's no content yet.
Wouldn't it be kind of cool that the description or the abstract was just null?
So the title is "This session was intentionally left blank."
Yep.
That's about as clever as I got. I still have to write the entire session, but there's a lot of like content out there on null. So what I'm doing is looking at it in context of different things that we do. So like if I'm writing a component and I have this scenario, what should I use for null? If I'm getting values out of configuration, what should I do with null? That type of stuff. So I think there's going to be a lot of Seinfeld puns in here, because what better a session about nothing than making puns about a show about nothing, right?
Yeah. Totally makes sense.
I'll have to submit that for a upcoming Sweden-based conference, maybe in 2024, because I have to come back and visit some more of your lovely country. I've been out to Malmo, and that was absolutely fantastic. And I was out there February this year as well. So.
Oh, really?
Was it February? It was very early this year, wasn't it?
If you're talking about the Swetugg, that was in Stockholm.
Stockholm, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cold.
It is cold.
And icy.
Yep.
I got to go ice skating, but not the kind where you like put on blades and like go on a frozen, like, yeah, it was in the streets. But
the head injury kind.
Yeah, I didn't have a bad injury. I did fall. I will admit it, I did fall, but I fell with style. Like Buzz Lightyear. I knew I was going down, so I just made the best of it.
Of course, of course.
All right. Anything else, Jimmy? I know you've got a show that you do with Jessica Engstrom.
Yeah,
who's your wife. You have
pull that up,
Coding After Work podcast, and you stream as well too. So
so we kind of using the Coding After Work brand name, if you will, for multiple things. So we have a user group so if you living nearby Stockholm, we meet up. We haven't met up since COVID. Really, we met up once after that. But you can definitely check that out. We're on Meetup, and you can find all of the information in the Find Us at CodingAfterWork.com. And yesterday we released a podcast that has also been kind of like we're working on it, but we're not there just yet. But yesterday we got a new episode out there with Nick Shapsas, which is sharing some of his YouTube. He grew in 4 years to 200,000 subscribers.
Wow.
So he shares some of his tips and tricks. And what we're doing...
Great presenter, too. He does...
Actually, I've never seen him present, but I can
about
imagine.
just his style on YouTube. Is presenting content on YouTube.
Yes, I really like his videos. And on our stream, we're building a call for paper site. And this is from the need again, right? Because I'm always forgetting to submit. I submit for our conference yesterday, which was the last day it was opened. So So I'm trying to figure out what is the best way of keeping track of all the conferences. So this is the work in progress. So it's next tech event. It's actually available on nexttechevent.com. It's going to take you to the Azure website site. So this is a work in progress. We're not done in any form or anything. So the idea here is that we have 3 different parts of the site. So one of them is for speakers. So this is where you'll find all the open call for papers right now. So you can scroll down and find all of the different things. And you can filter it. You can find, so let's say, actually, I don't know any open call for papers right now. So let's do Seattle. So if we search for Seattle, we will see that, oh, it's basically there's only one conference open here right now. And then we thought that, okay, so we got speakers finding places to speak. But what about attendees? Wouldn't it be kind of cool for attendees to find a place that they can go to? So if we go to attendees, you will see that we got a lot of conferences happening as well. So if I go here and I say Sofia, for example, DevReach pops up and
I recognize that.
I know, right? So I can go into DevReach and I can get a conference link so I can read more about that one. But also as a speaker, now this is, we have the same conference page for speakers as well as attendees. But as a speaker, I kind of want to know, what is the temperature like? What do I need to pack if I want to go to Sofia? And well, so apparently it's going to be around 9 degrees Celsius. That's good to know. I probably need a jacket.
And an extra liver for that rakia.
That's true. That is true.
People know what I mean.
And also we can check out, so there are overlapping conferences. So there are conferences happening at the same time. And sadly, if we scroll down here, we'll see that Swetugg Gothenburg is one of them. But so basically, if I wanted to submit to DevReach or to Swetugg, I would be able to see here, okay, this is overlapping, and I would rather be talking at DevReach. I probably shouldn't submit to Swetugg or the other way around. Now, let's say that I want to, let's say that I'm a speaker, and I kind of want to, I know that I'm going to Sofia. Is there anything happening around the same time in the same radius, perhaps? So we can click on Sofia here. So that one is, this is again, work in progress. This is actually using the progress Telerik components. So the date picker and the radius that we are scanning, and also the map here. So it's default saying that, well, the 25th and 26th, and I can scroll up here so I can increase the radius. Still nothing. Still nothing. Let's see if we can get some. There we go. So suddenly we have code motion happening at the same time. Now it's kind of a long trip between these two, perhaps, but I can get the bigger date. So maybe if I'm still in Sofia, going over to code motion would be doable. And if we go all the way up here, we'll see that Gothenburg here as well. So it's a pretty large distance. So we can search like finding conferences nearby and by date. Now there's one menu item left, and that is for organizers. So when we're finding the perfect date to have a conference, we want to be able to search and figure out when is stuff happening at the same time. So this is basically just a calendar showing how many conferences that are happening at that particular date. So here we have like 49, 59, 53. So if we click there, we will see that, okay, it's global Azure for some, mostly global Azure stuff. So using this view, you will be able to find a good date where it's perhaps either not happening a lot of stuff at the same time, or there's something happening close by in the vicinity. So perhaps we can work together with DevReach or NDC or Techoram or whatever it may be. So that's the idea of the site. And we're doing this on stream. The source code is available if you want to take a look. And well, hopefully people find it useful.
I've got one more persona I will talk to you about off air.
Okay.
I think you need to add to that list.
Absolutely. I am open for suggestions.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Well, it's been about an hour, Jimmy. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
It goes fast, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
That is a Blazor Power Hour, though, for you folks. Does anybody in chat have any questions for Jimmy or I before we go? And Jimmy, do you have anything else you want to share before we leave?
No, I don't think so. We talked about a lot of things. Please check out the plugin, and again, I'm very open for pull requests or suggestions or even a review.
And also, congratulations to our Blazor folks out there that got renewed for their Microsoft MVPs last week. There were quite a few of those. Like were you in the same group, Jimmy, in July? For the renewals?
Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations to you as well.
Thank you, and you too.
And I will be at Visual Studio Live next week. We talked about it early in the show, so if you missed it, if you're in the Seattle Redmond area, stop by Visual Studio Live. And Jessica says it's all in July now.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense on the little bit of trending that we did. But yeah, if you're in Redmond, if you're near the Microsoft campus, get a ticket to Visual Studio Live. Come see us at the Birds of a Feather table and get one of Jimmy Engstrom's Blazor books. Or you can go on Amazon and grab one of those as well if you're not going to be in the area. They are up for discount right now on Amazon, so check that out. And make sure you grab some of the plugin and some of the other GitHub stuff that Jimmy's got going on his page. It was nice having you here to chat with me today, Jimmy. Best of luck on all your projects. I don't know when you find time to sleep or eat or have any other sort of activities other than writing code and making things, but it seems like you're enjoying it. So
yeah,
that's all that matters,
definitely.
Right? See you all soon, and I'll see you all in about a week. Take care.